In this video, I'm going to be giving a review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, the sequel to the first Puss in Boots movie that we got back in 2011. Although this movie is really not so much a direct sequel to that movie, it's more so just another solo Puss in Boots adventure. The same way Logan isn't considered a direct sequel to the first two solo Wolverine movies. Now, with DreamWorks movies, DreamWorks animation, I think the cutoff point for me to where I stopped watching their movies regularly was like 2011. But during my elementary school years, they were doing a much better job when it came to their animated stuff compared to the regular non-Pixar Disney animation stuff, where they were just releasing one flop after another. It was surprising though that they decided to do another Puss in Boots movie. You know, the first one was fine, it was a solid animated movie, but no one was really clamoring for a sequel, especially over a decade later. In this film, Puss in Boots finds himself on a down on his luck part of his life, but then embarks on a quest once he finds out about a legendary wish-granting location that can restore his former's brave, fearless hero glory. Now, going into this film, I was under the impression that this film took place after the first Puss in Boots movie, obviously, but before Shrek 2, when he joins up with that gang. To my surprise, this film takes place after the final Shrek film, with a few references here and there to those previous adventures. It's nothing that really changes the story of this film. In fact, you could have made this to where this took place before those films and it really wouldn't have mattered much. But it was fun to see a continuation of those films with an adventure that took place after them, because those films and characters are so iconic, and it was really fun to see those little references here and there to those previous adventures. Something that is definitely not a continuation of those films is the animation style. The Shrek films used a style that, when it came to the animation style, movement, and fluidity, the style really tried to match the real world as possible, in character design and all that kind of stuff. This film utilizes a style that most closely resembles Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's not a choice that you think would be the most natural fit, but in the end it does end up working for this film, and it's hard to imagine it otherwise without that style. Although I do think the previous style would have worked, but I guess it probably wouldn't have been as fun, I guess. Because this kind of style definitely adds a different kind of visual flair you get with the action sequences that you can't really get with traditional looking 3D animation. I will say at times this style did get to be a bit too much or too comic booky, especially when characters started running, or a fight Puss in Boots has early on with a tree monster. That's looked a bit too much, a bit too exaggerated. In comparison though, minus with the whole down on his luck part, the story here is very similar to the first Puss in Boots. You get a quest to find some kind of treasure, his old flame Kitty Softpaws gets involved, and he's dealing with a couple of bounty hunters. In the first film, it was a thuggish hillbilly version of Jack and Jill, and in this film, it's a hardcore bounty hunter version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Never mind that there was seemingly a different version of the Three Bears in the first Shrek film, but this isn't the first time Shrek has retconned the previous appearance of a fairy tale character. Goldilocks here was voiced by Florence Pugh, and I loved her voice acting in this. She's just got this deep, authoritative voice type that was just perfect for this version of Goldilocks, and her story ended up having some nuance, unlike those previously mentioned Jack and Jill from the first film. Not as nuanced, but still fun in this, was the other villain in this movie, Big Jack Horner, who was just a perfect combo of being menacing, intimidating, and still really funny. You know, he's a villain that really doesn't F around, and he'll just let his henchmen die and just be like, oh well, keep going. But this was a really entertaining villain in this movie. I say Puss in Boots for lats here because, you know, Antonio Banderas, he's still great as Puss in Boots. He said that this is his favorite character to play. He loves being this character. And Puss is the rare character in movies, I guess, that can work equally as well as a side character as well as the titular main hero. While it's nothing mind-blowing writing-wise, his story has enough nuance and development to make you feel like the writers at least thought things through instead of just jotting down random adventure of the week. His relationship with him and Kitty Softpaws definitely helps add some things here. Kitty Softpaws, voiced by the lovely Selma Hayek. Overall, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has a great amount of entertainment for adults and kids, and what was one of 2022's biggest surprises. You know, I think everyone was just like, a Puss in Boots movie, I don't really care about this, but this movie ended up being a pretty entertaining flick that I'm glad I ended up watching. 8 out of 10 for The Last Wish. And by the way, that new Dreamworks intro is fire, by the way. I love that intro. So that'll do it for this video, this review of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching.